This is James with Gulf Coast Clock Company doing the Korean 31-day clock mechanism reassembly video / Area 5251. What are they at? 2 million people storming Area 51 now. I'll say that Area 51 can't be stormed and 2 million millennials can't make it through to see them aliens. People also say you cannot work on these 31-day mechanisms. They're just not worth the repair, not worth the attention. This was filthy when we took it apart. We cleaned off pretty much everything except for this black paint that was copiously sprayed all over the back side of the clock, probably after the mechanism was already put inside the cabinet. So, with everything relatively clean enough, it'd be nice if these parts really brightened up a whole heck of a lot more, but they were pretty dirty for a very long time, so there's a lot of staining, a lot of pitting, but we got pretty much all the corrosion out. All the grease, all the crud, the bearings are spotless, even if the plates are not. And let's go ahead and try to get this thing back together here. This is the hardest part working on a 31-day clock, is assembling the plates. All this right here. This is a whole heck of a lot of mainspring stuff inside this clock. So, we're going to try to do a reverse explosion and cram everything back in there without everything exploding back in our face. At least, that's the big idea. We've got a couple parts we're going to have to press onto the front plate, including the gathering pallet, gathering cam, depending on your preference for the term. Replace that little black plastic piece, this fan here. I scavenged this fan, governor, flywheel from another mechanism of another type, and it's a pretty good fit. Had to cut a little groove into the shaft, hang on to this little tension spring to keep this wheel from flying off and bumping into something else. That worked out pretty well. We had to remove that little cup that was on the back plate. There was a little drum sitting around here somewhere. I might have already thrown that away. Regardless, where that drum was, this is where the fan is going to replace that. It's clear of the next wheel, so it's perfect size. Haven't seen how it's going to function yet, but when we get this thing together, we're going to see how that actually ends up performing when the clock is striking. So, and all these parts out in the cleaner, and start putting this thing together here. Has there been much news on the storm Area 51 situation? Today I have not read the first bit of news.
I think they started a storm in the Bermuda Triangle.
A storm in the Bermuda Triangle? Yes, it can't take us all. But, maybe it could.
I don't know.
I don't know. My money's on the Bermuda Triangle. That's ruined a lot of dreams. But, it's got everything mounted on the front plate.
I feel like the memes hit a plateau.
I'm a little worried it's going to run out of steam.
Oh, yeah.
And then everybody's going to just give up on seeing them aliens. And
Yeah.
anyway.
Give it a couple days. That's when September comes around and we'll be forgotten about it.
Yeah, probably. In hindsight, I don't think we're actually going to end up seeing a lot of them aliens. And, the millennials are not necessarily known for their persistence. But, let's hope we can break a cycle here. Everybody pull through. All the Kyles and the anti-vax kids, the Karens, the Florida men. That's where my job's going to come in here. So I didn't really pick that position, but rather life just kind of picked it for me. So I've become the Florida man. Move all those parts and pieces. I need a container to put those in, but I don't happen to have one in front of me. So today I've been running around and around. Not been getting much. I think I can start by doing is placing this lever back onto this post here. Don't like the way that's dragging against the front plate like that. A lot of these 31-day clocks have just notoriously small angles for this Thank you. Right there. Everybody gets to see me pick up all these tiny parts and pieces. That's probably the most exciting part. Not really.
I like tiny things.
I think once the plates get snapped together is probably the most exciting part. Probably the least exciting part is when you snap the plates together and you find out something's not where it's supposed to be. And then you have to pull it all back apart again. That's how it be sometimes, though. That is how it be. Right. I'm adjusting this lever here. I don't like the way it scrapes the front plate. It's probably been doing that for 40 years. No problem. Just in case. It looks like it's going to be a problem now. This I don't think is the way it's supposed to be. I'm going to try to push this in here. Sorry for everybody that's trying to watch. This is all off camera here. Definitely not. I don't know why this is an angle here. It's probably, again, probably just fine. This probably has not been giving any trouble for quite some time. We're going to move that into place. Just make sure. I might have seen that pop. I don't know, was that even on screen? There we go. This little rivet just popped out of place. It just doesn't look right. I'm going to attempt to close in this rivet. This rivet right here, if this will catch on focus, it's just absolutely atrocious with the way it aligns this this back portion of the lever onto the front portion.
Wow. So, the Area 51 invasion force reaches 1.2 million brave souls, making it the world's fourth largest army. China is first with over 2 million. India with over 1, and you're right behind India.
Right behind the Indian Army.
Well, we're right behind the American Army, technically. The United States has 1,347,300 troops. So, but we beat out North Korea and Russia.
Well, that's a comforting thought that we,
This says 2.8 billion. So it's changed. So now we are the world's largest. 2.8 million.
Good gracious. Now there's 2.8 million people in the Storm Area 51 group. Or is that the actual people in the armed service?
Let me see. It should be the Storm Area 51, but I'm going to double check.
That's amazing. See, that's really speaking to the whole moral of this repair video, is that if you put your mind to it, anything can be done. 3 million Americans have decided they want to see the aliens. I'm not even going to talk about the whole cheek clapping discussion. That's
a side note, yeah.
It's a little unfortunate. I want to come out. Gulf Coast Clock Company does not endorse unwanted advances on extraterrestrial creatures. Or any, yes. Not limited strictly to extraterrestrials, but in some ways especially extraterrestrials. Alright. On this E-clip here, have some flat pliers, some curved pliers. The pliers just won't fall down. I'll get those too.
Yeah, 2.8 million are going or interested. That's
okay. 2.8 million going or interested.
1.5 million are going.
I've actually signed up to go. I plan on being there. I think that as long as the Kyles show up and they're breaking the drywall, the rest of us should have enough time. I don't have enough time, or as much as I'd want to give crystal meth to some gators, probably in the surrounding area.
Not to mention it's like animal abuse.
It is animal abuse, but if it's worth the cause, I kind of think the ends justifies the means in this instance. I mean, I can't be a Florida man unless I have meth-fueled gators.
That's true. I need to go get a bob haircut.
Every time I close this down, it folds up. I'll flatten out this E-clip. As I said in the first part of this video, as great as these 31-day clocks are, these E-clips are absolutely atrocious. I have no idea what they made them out of. But I have yet to find a Korean clock that looks like they actually had the proper sized E-clips designed for the post. Is it actually going to hang on there? This remotely appears as though it's going to hang on. Okay. Now, next random task. I'm going to put this center wheel on the center shaft. I'll take that off for the cleaning. Extra thorough. It's a snug fit there. Okay. I'm going to find the spring. It goes on the back. This tension spring is allows you to turn the hands on the clock when you have to turn the hands forward, or if you're turning them backwards. That allows this wheel to be in contact with this shaft, allows it to slip, so that you can set the time forward, back. I'm going to compress this washer here. Oh, I say that. Find the opening. And now that pin is in place. I'm going to put a dab of grease on the tail of this. This grease is going to keep this pin from chewing up the washer on the backside of the wheel over time. And plus it'll allow this pin to slide, so when you change the time the hands will move rather smoothly. I'm feeling grittier, jagged. Very nice. Now we have this lever on here. Grab some of these tools, get them out of the way. I think we can go ahead and start assembling the plate. We'll start by putting the center shaft here. I'm going to start with the center shaft, the second wheel on the time train, because it goes behind the main wheels, and you can't really put the center shaft in until after you've gotten. You can't put the center shaft in place before you put the main wheels in. I think I'm boogering that entire statement up there, trying to figure out which wheel this is and talk at the same time, which has proved to be a disaster. I mark the wheels prior to the repair inconspicuously, which ironically ends up making them very difficult to find later. I believe this is the strike train. I'm going to put that over there. I'm going to put time train second wheel right there. Might as well put all the wheels in. It's time train third wheel. Excuse me, fourth wheel. And there's the escape wheel. Now, on the strike train, there has to be some degree of predictability in lining up where the levers and cams are going to go. We're we're going to line up the hammer so that the clock mechanism goes in the proper rest position. Because we don't want the clock to start counting or stop counting right while it's in the middle of counting. Which doesn't make much sense, grammatically speaking. You see what I mean here? And actually, looking that way. Plate. Okay. Now, this is the hammer lift pins on this wheel. And I'm going to try, but since the clock's all taken apart, everything's going to wiggle somewhere where I did not want everything to go. I'm going to try to put that after just having been lifted by that pin. Now, let's see what actually happens in reality here. Now, this wheel, this is the straight train, second, third, fourth wheel. This looks like this is the warning pin on this wheel. If I can get this on screen here, this is a tiny pin on the front side, and this isn't a warning pin. This would actually be a stop pin. This just may actually be a warning pin. There's a second lever here. There we go. Alright, so it is both a stop pin and a warning pin. Got that lined up right there, pointing to the next wheel. So I'm going to push this in this direction. Oh goodness, I can't see it from that side. I'm turn this around here. Pointing this back towards the wheel. So, this over here. This wheel. This over here. That right there. That's the idea, anyway. All right, so we've got almost everything put in between the plates. Don't have the verge put in there yet. I'm going to put this in last, just out of personal preference. Put this lever back in here. Put these temporarily over there. Okay, now we're going to zip tie those mainsprings. Talked more than enough about seeing the mailings. Now we're going to talk about the mainsprings. The mainsprings is very long, so we're going to tie them down using the zip ties. Give it a closer shape to how it's designed to sit inside of the plates while the clock is wound up. So, this is the time side mainspring. We're going to try to get this winding arbor lined up and that bushing hole, well, rather than the back side of it. We're going to try to get this post here through the loop of the mainspring. Now, if I tighten down the zip tie, I'm actually going to shorten the distance between these 2 points. I'm a good bit longer than the distance between the post and that bearing right there. So I'm going to shorten this zip tie, arch the spring a little bit more. It's pretty darn close. Okay. Tighten just a little bit more. That should do the trick. Okay. We're actually not even changing anything as far as the winding on the mainspring, but rather just the shape of it. And that is literally the #1 obstacle to overcome, aside from cheap E-clips and Area 51 cards. Doesn't want to go in that way. So put it in that way. Alright, there's the time wheel. Now we're going to do the same with the zip ties on the strike side. Should have had this done ahead of time, but the mainsprings hold me up. It's a lot of mainspring clean, it's a lot of mainspring oil. Again, check the relative distance between the winding arbor, the bushing, the post, and this loop. I'm going to shorten this a little bit more. There we go. I think that's going to do it. Let's see. Post through there. Still, nope, I still need to bring that down. There we go. Opening the second wheel. Let's lift this up. All my work on the alignment up top with the hammer is probably all undone now, so we're going to go back through and we're going to recheck everything. It looks like everything's in place. I'm suspicious that it's not, but let's try to be optimistic here and check to see how this fits. If we find out something's out of place, we can always pull it back apart, push it back together, and try to see if we can get this in a run here, though. It'd be nice. Got this extra long gear shaft. It goes to the gathering pallet. That's I'm not even close to yet, so that's not holding me up. We're going to continue to try to drop this plate down. Running into something. I'm suspicious it's probably this clamp.
got $240 from Brandon so far.
Oh, wow.
Fill up the roof.
There we go. Alright, we've got the bottom half of the plate together. A little bit further than I wanted that to go. Well, so what we're going to do here is take this is one of my favorite tools I've ever run across. This is called a screw grabber. Speaking of Area 51, this screw grabber, it's rather frightening looking, but it's absolutely amazing. It has a plunger here on the backside. You push it down, and these claws come out, and they will just absolutely latch on to just about anything you put inside of them. And they're just wonderful for not only holding a screw, but also starting a screw. As long as the threads are clean, as long as the screw's in relatively good shape, they start on just like a dream. Say that, of course, it's not cooperating right now.
Of course not, since you're paying attention to it.
Exactly. Exactly. But it be like that sometimes. I really do be that way sometimes. Alright, get this out of the way. I'm going to swivel around. I'm going to have to look in between the plates. Something that you guys are not going to be able to see. And I'm not going to flip this up. What I'm doing is I'm lining a little gear and post in between these plates into proper alignment. And that just undid almost everything we lined up here. That's okay. Push this down. To tighten the strap down. Everything is just coming out of this plate. Let's get everything put back in here. Oh, miniature catastrophe. looks like this clamp actually in the way here. Not really a whole lot I can do. Can't get it to smush any further in any direction. So we're going to redo this. This back off. This is why nobody wants to get into clockmaking.
So no one wants to open up.
Because it is a lot of rinse and repeat. There's all this went together just the way it was supposed to, just the way it came apart. But unfortunately, one little pin is going to make me pull this whole wheel back out of here. There we go. While we're in here, everything else rattled apart anyway, so that's all for the better. I really need to put that second wheel in first. There we go. I'll slide this in. This second wheel does not want to go in because of this mainspring clamp. There's barely any room to work with on the inside of this clock here. And, yeah, it can make it kind of a harrowing experience trying to put this thing back together.
I have faith in you.
There we go. Alright. Lift wheel. Got semi-satisfactory here. Everything else is apparently lined up. We're going to see whether or not that pans out into reality here. Alright, let's storm Area 51.
One of the Reddits, the Area 51 Reddit,
Yes.
had to post something saying that no mention of raids or sexual intercourse with aliens or something like that. Because there being so much inappropriate stuff.
Well, if aliens could read Reddit, I think they would be kind of frightened to find out the things that people plan on doing to them.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just setting them free, and here they are thinking, we're gonna do some kind of cool bro thing and get them back home, and instead we're gonna be putting them on a couch.
I don't know. It's very confusing.
I'm not very comfortable with where exactly that entire transaction is going with aliens on the couch. I've heard bad things, and I'm sure they're just rumors. Maybe that's just a joke.
Yeah.
Storm Area 51 is real, but the couch is a joke. At least in my mind. I tell myself that. A very strange belief system. Requires even stranger reinforcement. Okay. Get the plate back on here. Get that second wheel. Hands down. God bless you.
Suppose Trump hasn't said anything.
No, he's been surprisingly silent on Storm Area 51. He's usually pretty quick to put his opinions into absolutely anything, whether it's asked for or not.
Lady.
Speaking of Storm Area 51, I was delighted when I got to see President Trump asked about UFOs in a televised interview, and his response just, I still can't get it out of my head. So apparently he's briefed, I guess, by someone from the Pentagon or Navy pilots. He just had this very bizarre statement of he doesn't believe what they're saying, but he trusts that they know what they're talking about. But personally, no, he doesn't believe in UFOs. So the funny part is that the military has come forward and told the president, Mr. President, there's some crap flying around in the sky. We don't really know what it is, and well, it might be hostile, but we don't really know since it won't really stop talk. And it just, I don't believe it, and I guess it doesn't fit his belief system. So the strangest part is the fact that there are government officials that are under the assumption the president really kind of have some type of opinion, or at least knowledge of these unidentified flying objects. The only thing I can really think in my mind is why President Trump wouldn't have really much of anything to say about it is perhaps he's really an alien himself. That would explain a lot of things if that were the case. Turkey.
I would assume that once Trump is no longer president, he's going to write a book. I wonder how much he's going to spill.
How much he's gonna what?
Spill. In his book.
Oh.
Write books afterwards.
Oh, absolutely. That's where it's all at. It's the endorsements. That and all the goodie bags at the parties. All right.
outside the gates.
What was the, forget, official Air Force response? Where did you read that from?
Official
They-
Air Force response?
Yeah, where they were talking about ATIP and if Americans want to know more. Starship Trooper sounding.
What is it?
They were talking about ATIP. The
ATIP.
AATIP, Advanced Aerial Threat Identification Program. And talking about if Americans want to see them aliens, then they should write their congressman and they should do this and that. And that was, it was funny. It was funny. The entire name of that, ATIP, Advanced Aerial Threat Identification Program. Like, they can't even call it a UFO. That's so upsetting to people. The entire storyline of, no, they are not aliens. It's just something that flies around in the sky that we can't shoot down, and, it's making us kind of nervous. And it's not a UFO, though. It's absolutely not. It's just something else that flies around in the sky. Maybe it's just their imaginations. Maybe the Navy pilots, we put them in these multi-billion-dollar aircraft and they just really don't know what they're seeing. Maybe it's a radar malfunction and they can't tell the difference between a blip on a screen and something flying around their airplane. That's really an insult. To not just pilots in general, but the armed services at large. Well, this one nut will absolutely not go on any of these posts. I've got to swap it out for one of the others. And the one last thing we don't have on is the hammer.
This says, according to CNN, the House of Representatives orders Pentagon to investigate whether ticks were once used as biological weapons.
Yeah, I was reading something about that.
Between 1950 and 1975.
That, ticks apparently are very good at transmitting all sorts of nasty diseases and viruses with long-term effects.
Yeah, well, of course, Lyme disease.
Yeah. That's gracious. And there we go. The plates are snapped together. Let's go ahead and install these. It's very strange how this has to fit in this notch. There we go. Lock it in place. Easier said than done. as is tradition. All the way down. This right here. All locked in. I tighten this down, and I still have to put this little wing in here. That was not very thoughtful. Open this up here. Big idea is to drop it down like so. Very good. So, lined up on the front plate and the back plate, both left and right sides.